Do you view EFT as a treatment? Would anyone like to put your hand up if you see EFT as a treatment? I'm not seeing a lot of hands go up, am I? Oh, there's a few. Right. I don't see it as a treatment. Now, that's just my view, because I have like a mind-body-spirit model that I work from. It's like, and I'm not saying it's better or worse than anyone else's model, it's just we all have a concept here. And when I talk about spiritual, I'm talking about consciousness. I'm not talking about a belief system or anything like that. I'm just talking about, I believe consciousness is a spiritual quality, a spiritual something, or if you're a Zen Buddhist, a spiritual no-thing. And I believe it's particularly useful in opening up the most difficult problems. But I just want to have a look at EFT. I think can be a treatment. I don't know how many of you ever read who's heard of a guy called Ken Wilber? Ken Wilber, right. And he wrote a book called No Boundary. Has anyone read No Boundary? It's a tough one. It's the most humbling book I've ever read. But he has in it what he calls like a spectrum of consciousness. It's written many years ago, way before EFT was ever developed. And so there's like a spectrum of consciousness, and there's people who are less conscious and people who are more conscious. And at this end, you might see people have, emotional cripples at this end, and victims, all the way victims. And at this side, you will see things, he'll start talking about enlightenment. Excuse the writing. And along the way, there's various chapters showing as people become more and more conscious, that he positions, as he saws it, different techniques that are being used in the world, fitting at different places. So you can have different techniques that appear to have totally contradictory theories as to why they work, but when you look at it from this point of view, he shows that this one fits here, but this one fits there, and this other technique fits there. So where does EFT fit? Does it fit anywhere? And his book, No Boundary, took him from being someone no one had ever heard of to being a university dropout, to being a person who had a huge influence on thinking in the human development field. Now, I see there's a spectrum there, and I believe that treatment is at this end. And so I can acknowledge that for people who are unwell emotionally or mentally, that there is a treatment aspect and it's used in that context. But I think as you move across here, I don't see this here at all. It's like over somewhere around about here, you're looking at personal growth. And over here, you're looking at spiritual growth. I won't write it all in. And so to me, it's a technique that can be used right across the spectrum. And that's the most incredible thing, I think, about EFT. I did use over 100 different techniques before I ever found EFT over a very long period. And and I had a toolkit of tech tools. I had different techniques for trauma, different techniques for emotions and feelings, different techniques for beliefs, different techniques for working with subpersonalities and identities, different techniques for entities, like demons, and so forth. And so when I was working with a client, I would sort of identify, what am I looking at here? Trauma, feeling, attitude, whatever. And I'd reach into my toolkit and use that technique. And so I ended up, I remember during the 90s, sort of identifying all the tools I was currently using, and I had 25 different techniques in my toolkit at that time. And over time, you take one out and put another one in that was better. And the thing about all those techniques too is that in the time that I was using them, usually, you learn a new technique, and usually within 3, maybe 6 months, you'd get a feel for what that technique could do. You'd get a clear picture of what it was good at, what it was not good at, what it could do and where its limits were, and you could see where it fitted in the scheme of things. And it was always like that. With EFT, I have not been able to find its limits, and that's why I mentioned that in the introduction, because it seems to best grow as I grow. I grow with it. It's like, and it seems to be only limited by the skill and presence of the person using it, and which makes it extraordinary. Another weird thing is that it works on everything. It doesn't just work on trauma, it works on beliefs, it works on feelings, it works on entities, and it works on, subpersonalities. So it is doing something very, very profound, I believe. And even after all this time of looking and thinking, why does it work, And how many times does our jaw have to drop, when we see it, the magic that EFT can do?